Good tactical morning. I am Tactical Laptop Bag, and today marks the 19th and 20th weeks of development for Tactical Airsoft Training Simulator. So what do I have for you guys these 2 weeks? Well, actually, I don't have too much, so this is going to be a very technical devlog. I'm going to be delving really deep into the technical stuff. So this devlog might be boring for some of you, but if you are a programmer or a developer or anything like that, any interest in how like these things work, this will probably be more interesting to you. But as far as actual showing off of features and gameplay, this is not going to be much of that because I only have like 3 changes. uh, we had finals week last week, so my brain has been destroyed, and I have been recovering from that, thankfully. And you can see I am remedying this by goofing off with friends. That's as you've seen in the last video I uploaded, which was the Pavlov shenanigans. That was a load of fun. I have got to play that more with Strelix. But anyway, so on with the actual devlog. So what is the first change that I have made? Well, the first immediately noticeable change that will happen in this devlog is the buttons on the soda can machine. So let me turn off the camera real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. So the radios here still use the old button system. So this is what is SteamVR's built-in hover button system, and it's really simple. All it is there are 2 hover points in my hands. There's a big one in my palm, and there's a small one in my index finger. So there's only 2 places where I can really hit buttons. I can either push them with my palm of my hand, or I can press them in with my finger. I cannot touch them with like any other part of my hand. I can't just like do this because it most likely will work. And also because my hands are now physical objects, the buttons could get in the way of my hands and not make it very easy to press, as it has been with the soda can machine in the past. The radio still has this old system. I'm going to keep it like that because this new system uses physics, and this won't cause any issues with the radio. The hover button system won't, and at the same time, it also still works perfectly fine. Like I can feel it clicking like that, and it feels perfectly fine. There's no reason to change it. But you can see when I hover it with my index finger and then move my finger in, it's it's just that simple. It's just once you are starting to hover over it, it detects how much you've pushed in since the start of your hover, and that's how it works. You can do the same thing with the palm of my hand, but because it's such a bigger interaction zone, it does that. All right. So this, of course, means I cannot press it with any of my other fingers. Sometimes it might look like you can, but that's your palm interaction zone touching it, and so you can see I can't push it like, with anything like my wrist or anything like that. Alright, so now that I have explained what hover buttons are, let's look at what these new buttons here are. They look exactly the same, but they are very different internally. So these are physics buttons, and this was a system that I had designed for an old prototype game I made about a year ago, I'd say at this point, called Taco Hut. And it was going to be a VR PC co-op game where you basically just make where you work at a taco hut and y'all are just making tacos and having fun and all that good stuff. The game got scrapped because of a hard drive crash. And so yeah, that was unfortunate, but I had a lot of fun with that. And in that, I learned how to make physical buttons because this was before these buttons existed. This hover button system existed, so I had to make it myself. So I ended up with this system here. As you can see, you can hear clicking noises. I can push it with any part of my hand, and it's a lot easier to press. And so I can even take a physical object like this radio here. The antenna does not have any colliders on it, but you can see I'm moving it with the radio here. So any object you can pick up and is a physical object, like this radio here. This is not a physical object. Oh heck! All right, never mind. But any object that is a physical object that reacts to physics can interact with this button. And So the way this button works is there is a trigger behind the button. There's actually, I think I don't, yeah, they're still there. You can see the triggers back there. I didn't hide their renderers or anything like that. And what it is it's just the trigger back there, and it is on the same layer as this button. And the button has a tag that indicates that it's actually a button, so that way the trigger can't be stuck with something else and think, oh, I was pressed to activate the button, when in fact it was just a magazine glitching through the entire universe. So what happens is, of course, you can see the button going in and the button comes back out. I actually did no programming or scripting for this. This is all entirely physics. There is a spring joint on the trigger, and it's connected to this button. And it has a pretty high spring force. And see, this would work, except you have physics and literally everything else in existence that pushes it, that's not along the track. You have gravity, you have someone pushing it to the side or trying to pull it out of the socket, just trying to be an overall like system breaker, trying to see what they can do to goof up your game. So the what I had to do was initially I started off by inhibiting the button to go only on the track it's supposed to go on with physics by making a bunch of colliders surrounding the button so that way it could only move in one direction as far as it needed to go. And this worked, except sometimes I had 2 extra layers just for the button and the button's track. And it was way too complicated, and I did not need to have so many physics layers for this. I want to conserve on how many physics layers I have in this game. And sometimes what would happen as well is you could take something and jam it inside of the physics tracks, because for whatever reason it would interact with the physics track even though it wasn't supposed to. Other things you could do is if you smack the button hard enough with an object that could go through the track, it could knock the button outside of the track and just be horrible. So what I did instead was I scrapped that idea and started experimenting with script, inhibiting its movement with script, which is really scary to do, especially when you're talking about physics systems and Unity, because physics in Unity does not like to be changed without being notified of the physics system. And what I was doing couldn't exactly happen on the physics system. I had to do it to the actual transform of the button. I basically limited it so that the local position of the transform can only move along its relative z-axis, which would be this way, its forward direction. So I just make it so that the local position gets limited to this backing here, and as well as to the front. And I made sure that the X and Y local axes could not move, and that actually worked out really well. And so now there's no physical tracks or anything in the way. All you have is a pure, clean button, and I love it so much. It's so good. I did find this from a tutorial way back. I'm going to see if I can find it and put it in the description. But I did improve upon it with the whole local position thing. So yeah. Right. So the next thing we're going to get into is the second change I've done. It's really simple. Push a button. Wow, you can see what you're about to spawn. So yeah, I might put some text underneath of the icon for the gun. I'm also going to use different icons for the guns because these are much too small. I need to have wider ones and more rectangular ones rather than square ones, so that way it fills more of the area and you can see more. And also, you have to make a direct connection between you push this button and go, oh, okay, this is an A&K ACR MASADA. I don't think you want to memorize that, do you? I mean, right now, it's not too hard to memorize that. There's only 4 guns in the game. But once I get a lot more in here, it's just going to be painful. So, yeah, I am going to probably put this text in the bottom of these as well. But for now, the only way you can find the actual name of the gun is with the green button, because it'll confirm what you're about to spawn. Jam that button in right there, and you can see the soda cans now spawn underneath the vending machine instead of on the table. I want to fix this because this is such a tiny space to fit my hand into. I hate it. But yeah, so open it up. You got your good old A&K MASADA. Go to ammo, and I'm going to go straight into my third change, which is the HI-CAPA magazine. Feels a lot better. I don't want a golden magazine. Let's try this again. Yeah, I have not updated the toggle here to work with physics yet. But yeah, you can see I cannot push the button because it's a hover button. I'm currently hovering the soda can because it's in my hand, but I can still press that button. So, all that good stuff. Open this up, and that is a bug. That BB should not be there. But yeah, so it is now incredibly difficult to wind the HI-CAPA. You kind of have to like really touch it with your index finger here. Sorry, Hangouts. It took much too long to wind that up. Like, okay, so here's what's happening, right? So I fixed the bug for when you put it in the vest, take it out, put it back in, you can take it out again. So that's been fixed. But the bug is, what happened was, when I first made this, I was really dumb, and when you would pick up the HI-CAPA magazine, it would disable the collider that was used to pick it up. So this big box here. That's why it wasn't able to be physics interactable. Now it can properly interact with physics, as you can see here. And so, I was doing that so that way it was easy for the wheel here to get priority over all of the other colliders in the magazine, so that way you can hover over it and wind it up like this. Now, with the Steam VR update, they added the ability to hover over multiple objects. I was like, yes, this is what I need. Especially since now you can actually set a numbered priority, so that way one hovers whenever you're selecting two. So if you have two of them selected, then the one that has a higher priority would be the primary focus. So unfortunately, for some reason this is not working very well. It could be that the trigger is just in a weird position. I haven't checked it for a while, or anything like that. But yeah, so that's a thing that's going to be really infuriating. But it also fixes the vest bug, which what was happening was collider disabled, put it in here, it was still disabled, so it left it disabled. So then when you picked it up, it was still disabled. And then when you dropped it, it would disable it again because it remembers it was disabled before. Then you couldn't pick it back up. So yeah, sticking this in, and it'll still shoot just fine. It'll be it's a little easier to wind it in the gun with your index finger, but that's about it. So yeah, those are my three changes this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week I will be working on cleaning some things up. I have a lot of code cleanup to do, and I will be working on getting the distant hovering system to actually be designed. This is the first system in this game that was not actually thought through. The original one where you reach out and then just grab was thought through. However, when I was moving the code over from the old Steam VR to the new Steam VR, I was about to transfer that code. I went, hey, Half-Life Alyx distant grabbing would be really nice. And so I ended up doing that without actually sketching it out and thinking of how the system should work. So I'm going to be completely redesigning the system. It'll feel functionally no different, except maybe I might have the slower approach put in with this redesign. But in code, it'll be much more clean. You will not be lied to by the indicator all of the time, and it'll just be an overall nice process. Hope you guys enjoyed. Happy shooting.